So I'm walking up to the old North Bridge here. It's called the North Bridge because it's north of the town of Concord. And the British redcoats were waiting on the other side of the bridge as this group of farmers marched up here to take them on. It had to have been quite a harrowing task for them. They had to be pretty frightened. I sure would be. They're not trained soldiers, you know, they're farmers and they're artisans and they're blacksmiths and they're teachers. They're ordinary people getting ready to do the extraordinary. And it's something that I think is important to remember. A group of ordinary men with an extraordinary cause can do extraordinary things. So right here is the Minuteman statue, and it's perfect because if you look at it, it's a farmer. He's got his gun in his hand, and in his left hand he's got a plow, because that's who these people were. They weren't professional soldiers. They were people defending their homes. They were farmers. They were regular guys. And this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson: "By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmer stood and fired the shot heard round the world." So as we move forward over the bridge, this bridge is probably twice as wide now as it was then, because to march across it you could only go in a column of two. So that's how narrow the bridge would have been. It was just wide enough for a wagon. So this bridge is twice as wide as the bridge that would have spanned here in 1775. So the bridge would have been like from here to here, like here. So this is the middle of the bridge. That half of the bridge wouldn't have existed. So they would have come across this really narrow bridge, and they would have marched straight across this bridge. And when they get to the top of the bridge, on the other side is a line of redcoats, professional soldiers. And that certainly would have been intimidating, right? You're farmers, you're two abreast. The two guys in the front of the line were both killed, and you're two abreast and you're coming across here. And they force their way across this bridge and they take the land and they send the British running. And the rest of the day is the British are going to be retreating for the rest of the day, all the way back to Boston. And by the end of the day, 4,000 American militiamen from the surrounding communities are going to be in hot pursuit of these British. So if you look, now that we've crossed the bridge, if you look up here, this homestead, which was here in 1775, was the homestead of Ralph Waldo Emerson's grandfather, who was a preacher here in town in Concord, and he was an ardent patriot. He was called the Patriot Preacher. And Ralph Waldo Emerson lived there. Henry David Thoreau lived there at a time. Nathaniel Hawthorne lived there at a time. It's, you know, for you literary people, just back up over the bridge and back up that hill. There's a cemetery called Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. And Sleepy Hollow Cemetery is you know, like the home of the Headless Horseman, the story of the Headless Horseman. So that's something worth knowing. The last thing I'd like to show you while I'm here is the grave of the British soldiers that came here. And it says, "They came 3,000 miles and died to keep the past upon its throne. Unheard beyond the ocean tide, their English mothers made her moan." You know, these soldiers came here following orders from a king who, you know, certainly did not care for what they believed or what they wanted. And they defended this bridge against men defending their homeland. And they died here. And they died here for what? Right? For what? And right here, this marker is the marker they erected, you know, before the bridge was rebuilt. And it says here, on April 1775 was made the first forcible resistance to British aggression. On the opposite banks stood the American militia. Here stood the invading army, and on this spot the first of the enemy fell in the war of the Revolution, which gave independence to these United States. In gratitude to God and in the love of freedom, this monument was erected in 1886. So, very good. I'm going to post this for all of you who have struggled to see today.